In this video, we're going to talk about solving systems of inequalities. It's very similar to solving systems of equations by graphing. To get started, I want you to try the first two warm-up questions. Make sure you guys are following along with the attached Word document. So go ahead and give numbers 1 and 2 a try. Okay, solving both for y, and then resume the video once you're done. Alright, so the first one, all you had to do is move the 8x to the other side. Remember, when you move it to the other side, it becomes the opposite sign. So we have y is less than negative 8x plus 6. Now the second one, there's two steps that you have to do. The first step is move the 3x. So I subtracted the 3x from both sides. It became a negative 3x, as you can see. Alright, I still have the 10, so I have plus 10. And then I have this negative 2y, or this negative 2 in front of the y. So I need to divide both sides by negative 2 here. So if I divide both sides by negative 2, if I divide by negative 2, it looks like this. And when you divide by negative 2, the 2's eliminate, leaving you with the y. But one thing we talked about last week is when you divide by a negative, don't forget to flip the inequality. So notice my greater than went to a less than. And I now have a positive 3 halves x minus 5 on the other side. Okay, this is a very important skill, so we're going to keep practicing this. So try to get used to this. If you're struggling with it, if you need additional help, please reach out to me. We'll get that figured out. Okay, so learning target for today, as you can see on your paper, is you're going to be able to graph and solve systems of linear inequalities. Okay, now to find the solution set of a system, you're going to be looking for where the shaded region applies to both inequalities. One way that we recognize that is we look for the overlapping shaded region. Okay, and we'll get to that here in a second. Before we get to that, let's check to see what can we do to identify if a point is a part of the system's equation or the solution set. All right, so let's see this point, negative 1, negative 3. Is it a part of the solution to the system that you can see beside it? Now, the way that we try this, very similar to we try other things, is we plug it in. So we're going to plug in the negative 1, negative 3 for the x and y. Okay, so I'm going to plug it into the top equation first. If I plug the negative 3 in for the y, I have negative 3 on the left. If I plug the negative 1 in for x, it would just be replaced. The x would be replaced with the negative 1, but I still have the plus 1. Okay, and then now we need to simplify that. Negative 3 less than or equal to negative 3 times negative 1 is 3, and then 3 plus 1 is 4. Okay, so we have negative 3 is less than or equal to 4. Is that true? Is negative 3 less than or equal to 4? Yes. So we know that the point fits the solution to the top inequality, but we got to check both for it to be a solution to the system. Okay, let's try plugging it into the bottom one. Negative 3 less than 2 times negative 1 plus 2. Negative 3 less than 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. And negative 2 plus 2 is 0. Is negative 3 less than 0? Yes. So this would be a part of the solution set. Okay? Let's have you guys try the next one. Plug in this point and see, is it a part of the solution set to the system? Pause the video now and go ahead and give that a try. Alright, you may notice that I only plugged it into the top one. And the reason why is because that was enough information to tell me no. 5 is not less than 1. So this is a false statement, which means it's not a part of the top equation or the top inequality. It could be a part of the bottom one, but there's no need to check since I'm seeing, is it a solution to the system itself? So if you get one no, then it's a for sure no in terms on the solution to the system. Okay, so just like we mentioned at the very beginning of the video, what we're going to be doing is graphing both inequalities and trying to find the overlap region. That overlap region represents the solution to our system. So you can see in this example picture, we have a red line and a blue line, and after we do our shading, we've got this almost like a purple color showing that both overlap in that spot. So the solution to this system of inequalities is that overlap region. Okay, so that's all we're going to do is we're going to graph both of them and find the overlap. Okay, so if you're good at graphing, this should be pretty simple. But if you're not good at graphing, we really need to focus on how to graph these inequalities. Okay, so with our first inequality, we have y is less than or equal to 3. Hopefully after doing the quizzes game, you know that a y equals is a horizontal line and an x equals is a vertical line. Okay, so y equals 3, where would that be? So where's y3? Well, y is 3 right here. Y is also 3 right here, right here. Okay, so this is going to be a horizontal line, but before I make it solid, I need to make sure I can determine is it solid or dotted. And if you look at the inequality symbol, it does have a line underneath it, which means it includes the line. So I need to make a solid line through 3. Okay, so I graphed the line y equals 3, but now I got to figure out my shading. Do I shade above or below? Well, since this is a less than symbol, that means below. All points below this line would be a part of the solution set. So I'm going to shade everything below this line. Okay, so that's the top one. Now I'm going to graph the bottom inequality. You should be doing this document in Cami. If you're doing it on notebook paper, I would have 2 colors as you go. So that way it's easier to identify like where that overlap is. It's fine if you do it on notebook paper, but please make sure you have 2 different pins. Okay, so I'm going to switch over to, actually I like doing yellow because red's a little too bold. So I'm going to do yellow for the next one. I'm going to graph this line here. The y-intercept is at 5, the slope is at -1. So I go to 5 and I plot my point. A slope of -1, we're going to go down since it's negative, and we always go right. So down 1 over 1. Okay. So you can see where the points or where the lines cross, but really we're not just finding crossing points now. We're finding where the overlap shade is, right? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make this line. Should I make it solid or dotted? Looking at the symbol, this one's going to be a dotted line. Another way to say it's dashed. So I just put little dashes here. So there's my line. And then I need to shade this one above. Okay, so I'm going to shade above this line. Oops, I'm going to flip my colors. So shade above it. And check this out. When I shade above it, I've got this overlap region. Hopefully you guys can see it in green. If you can't, I'm going to darken it in just a little bit in that green color. So you guys can pick what colors you want to use, but make it easy for me to see the overlap region. Okay, because that is the solution set, and that's what I'm looking for. I'm not having you guys write it algebraically or anything. I'm just going to look at your graph and see that solution set. So understand, any point in that green would fit the constraints of both equations. All right, let's give the next one a go. So before we get started, you'll notice that the top inequality is not in the right form. It's in standard, and I want to put it in slope-intercept. There is ways to graph it in standard, but for us, it's easier just to go ahead and put it in slope-intercept. So pause the video, move the equation around, and get y by itself. Okay, hopefully you've had a minute to move the equation around. I'm going to go ahead and move it around in the video itself. So I'm going to move the 3x over. So I'm going to be left with 2y is greater than or equal to positive 3x plus 2. And now I'm going to divide by 2, which is y is greater than or equal to 3/2 x plus 1. Make sure your inequality stays the same here because we're not dividing by a negative. It's only when you divide or multiply by a negative does it flip. All right, now I'm going to graph that line. Okay, so graphing this line here, I go up to 1 because that's my y-intercept. My slope is 3/2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Let's go ahead and get some points below this. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. There's my line. Solid or dotted? This one should be solid. Above or below? This one should be above since it's a greater than. So I'm going to go above this line. Just like that. Okay. Next line. The next one, it starts at 3. Notice, guys, this one's already in the right form, so I don't have to move anything around. Starts at 3. That's my y-intercept. Slope is 4. So I'm going to go up 4 since it's positive. 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1. We still have quite a few of you guys messing up on the slope. Remember, positive means up, negative means down. Always work right. Okay? I pull out that point off the graph just so I can see where the other points need to be in line. Okay? So that point helps me. Now I'm going to go backwards. Down 1, 2, 3, 4. Backwards 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. Backwards 1. Okay, this line should be dotted. And this one I want to shade below it. It's kind of hard to tell, but this line is slanted a little bit to the right. So this would be below the line, and this would be above the line. Okay? I want to shade below because it's a less than, so I'm going to be shading to the right of this line. All right. Hopefully you can see that overlap region in green. That is the solution, so I need to be able to see that, okay? If you are starting to get really comfortable with these, you can just shade the overlap, but I would recommend as you start to shade both parts of it and then just really focus on that overlap. If you need to use like a third color like I've talked about, you can just go in with that third color and just like really darken it in for me. Okay, but I need to be able to see where the overlap region is. If I can't tell, you're going to be counted off. All right, so we just did a couple examples. Now what I'd like you guys to do is do the 4 remaining on the back page. Okay, so these are the 4. Notice, guys, they're already in slope-intercept form for you, so that should not be an issue. Graph the points, or graph the y-intercept and the slope. Determine if it's above or below, and if it's solid or dotted, and make sure you identify that overlap. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this video helpful. Let me know if you got any questions.